Hi, mystery writers. Welcome to Write a Killer Mystery. I'm Zara Altair, and today we're going to talk about the challenge to create mystery suspects. It's all about making them three-dimensional and believable to your reader for a very important reason. Okay, so first I want to thank my supporters on Patreon. They support these videos and they also support my mystery writing, which is what I love to do. All right, so let's talk about why understanding each suspect's relationship to the victim builds suspense in your mystery novel. Because the one thing each suspect has in common is the relationship to the victim. All right, we're building the mystery out from, well, what happened to the victim is usually a murder. So character development for your mystery suspects is the key to creating that reader interest. While knowing each character's traits helps you flesh them out, what makes them relevant to the story is their connection to the victim. And I'm going to go through that a little more because that's what keeps your readers reading. Your mystery novel depends on clues about the murder, first to confound your sleuth and your ability to conceal those connections until that final reveal. But what's important for you as the writer is to know all those details, because part of our job in creating the mystery is to hide things and make the important seem unimportant and make the unimportant seem important. But we have to have those details in order to play with them like that. So suspects are the lifeblood of writing your mystery novel that creates a satisfying journey for your reader. So first of all, you need to know your victim, because everything stems from the victim. Everything, right? And all the suspects are suspects because somehow they are connected to, they're related to, they worked with the victim. Somehow there's a connection with the victim. And your job as the writer is to know those connections, but also play with them and hide them and then bring them up for your reader to create tension in your story. And the challenge for creating those suspicious suspects is knowing your victim. You have to know a lot about your victim in order to know how the victim related to each of those different suspects. Okay? Because at the same time you need to create all these misleading facts to lead your sleuth and your reader in the wrong direction. We really are creating a puzzle. So keep in mind that the reader wants to guess who the villain is before the sleuth does. That's the reader's secret desire, is they're going to figure out who did it before the sleuth does. But at the same time, if they do, they're disappointed in your story. So your job is to keep your reader guessing, just like you keep your sleuth guessing. You keep your reader guessing until that final reveal. So creating deep character background for your victim gives you the multiple opportunities to bring those details of the various suspects to life at the appropriate time in your story. There's a lot of playing that goes into creating a mystery. But without that rich victim background, your writer can suffer. So, first of all, if you have a shallow idea of your victim, those connections aren't going to be strong. They're not going to be deep. It's harder to hide those connections, and that's going to tend to make your story flat. Um, and possibly obvious. And the other thing is, you will miss the opportunities to tie the suspect to the victim because you don't know enough. So it's really important to know a lot about your victim. Your victim is the foundation. Your victim is the foundation. And the reason all those suspects are there is because they're related to the victim in some way. So the background work that you need to do is tying your suspect to the victim. Each suspect has a unique relationship with the victim, and when you bring up relationship aspects that seem to point toward the crime, you create questions in your reader's mind. The more questions that you raise, the more your detective and your reader have to work to reason out what is important and what is not. So let's look at some of the details that are important and that you need to include in your background material about the suspect and their relationship to the victim. First of all, if they have a professional relationship. Second, if they have a personal relationship. And also what the suspect likes about the victim and what it is they dislike about the victim, and pressures that keep them from acting out on their dislikes about the victim, or at least kept them from acting out in the past. And I think it helps if you have one thing that casts doubt about the victim's relationship to the suspect. Um, and so you want to know what keeps each suspect from acting out, except the villain. Of course, the villain's hidden till the end, but you are going to know the difference between the villain and all the other suspects, because for the majority of your story, the villain is one of several suspects. Okay, so also that each suspect doesn't operate in a vacuum, so you want to know their relationship, if any, to the other suspects. And those are fun to play with because you can keep those relationships hidden. Um, and and then, of course, their public view of each of the other suspects, because their view, what they share with your detective about the other suspects, raises more doubts in your reader's mind, or they think they have a clear picture of the other suspect, but they don't. You really get to play with this a lot. Okay. And then each suspect may have their own personal misconceptions about the victim. They will be operating on a false belief, so you get to play with that too. And they're also going to have misconceptions about the other suspect's relationship to the victim. So mainly what you want to do is create lots of ways that you can raise questions and doubts for your reader, which is all reflected in the questions and doubts and the misdirections that your detective has. Okay. So what made Agatha Christie stand out time after time in her novels was her ability to create distinct suspects with unique ties to the victim, and that's essentially what you want to do. Deep character development will help you write those characters and help you write faster. The more you know, the easier it is to write about them. And because you have the big picture for each suspect, you can use those details at will when it feels appropriate to bring them into the story. So let's take a moment to talk about the secrets and lies that each suspect has. Every suspect has secrets. They may or may not relate to the victim and the crime, but they've got secrets. Everybody has secrets. And so telling lies to hide the secrets is another way to make your suspect suspicious. When the sleuth knows it's a lie, they have reason to doubt the suspect. But when the sleuth doesn't realize it's a lie and they go down the wrong path, you've created a whole diversion in your story. It's like a big red herring, all right? And then you create a reversal because at some point your sleuth is going to realize that they did go down the wrong path. So it's creating those suspects and their background and their secrets and their lies is the suspense secret, really. The more readers see your characters hiding secrets, the more they engage in solving the mystery. That's what you want to do for your readers. You want them like, I don't know, the suspect. Okay? You just want to keep raising those questions for your reader. And your sleuth works hard to uncover the secrets the suspects hide, and your readers will work just as hard as the suspects throw up screens and hide personal secrets. And once again, those secrets don't need to be related to the victim, but they're secrets that the suspect wants to hide, and they create complications in your story. A suspect can appear suspicious by hiding a personal secret that doesn't relate to the victim. And the very act of attempting to hide a secret creates tension in your story, and tension is what keeps your readers reading. Okay, all the while that you are working on your story and working with your suspects, one of your suspects is the villain. And to write a puzzling mystery, you want to keep that villain hidden until the end, which means you want to keep them at that suspect level through most of your novel. So for most of their novel, they're going to be equivalent to the other suspects. So you create the same type of background and similar secrets and lies for the villain. And to keep the villain hidden till the end, all the other suspects must feel like possible villains. And that's why developing three-dimensional suspects who create questions for your reader is important. You want to obfuscate who the real villain is until the very end. So all those suspects help you do that. All right. Just don't forget that the victim is the axis. Without the victim, we wouldn't have suspects, and we wouldn't have a mystery. So you need those suspects to create all the suspicions and the mystery in your story. The victim's the murder is the crime your detective must solve. All right, that's your detective's goal. They need to find the truth of who the real villain is. And if it were easy, your novel would be boring and short, right? So raising reader questions is the primary function of the mystery genre. You just want to keep your reader guessing and asking questions. What's going to happen next? Did she really do that? Is she telling the truth? Is he covering up somebody else's error? So what you know about the victim and the suspects helps you develop the plot and keeps the sleuth guessing the identity of the villain. And this is where, whether you are a planner or a pantser, it all converges. You've got all those suspects, and they keep raising questions, which is the main bulk of material that happens in your mystery. Okay, so when you write intriguing and complex suspects, you have a rich array of details to use at your will within the story. And I think the more that you do that character background and the more details you have and the more you know about their relationship with the victim and their relationship with the other suspects, the more material you have to pick and choose to create all of those questions. All right. Because along the way, you can create red herrings and lead your sleuth and the reader astray, and then somehow the sleuth needs to find out and get back on track and start looking in new directions and start looking at other suspects, start looking at new clues, all right? So as long as you have a firm grasp on each suspect's relationship to the victim, you'll help your reader plunge right in with those clues and relate to the suspects and question their actions and keep guessing until the end. And that's what you want to do. All right, great. I hope that helps. I find that working out the suspects and creating all those false clues and developing all those relationships is really a very fun part of writing a mystery, because because you're able to plug them in at the various plot points, uh, and you're able to do that because you have all this material readily at hand. Okay, thank you. If you found this helpful, please like this video, and of course I'd love you to subscribe so you won't miss another edition of Write a Killer Mystery, and I will see you next time.